Hi, everyone. Adrian from Audio Excellence Canada, Vilip, Angus, and Alex behind the camera. This is part two of the Q&A video that we were going to do. So part one, Alex is going to link the video in the description box below. These are some of the leftover questions from when Alex sent out a video note. What do you call that? Like
Just like a thread.
a thread saying, email us some questions that you might want us to answer. So let's start. Mike Hannon, I would love to know how you feel about vinyl versus streaming and which you find you use more for your personal listening.
Well, it doesn't compare. Vinyl is king. Not that I listen to a lot of vinyl because vinyl is more fiddly. It's definitely a process. There's a procedure.
Basically, Vilip doesn't want to get up after he sits down.
No, but you have to choose, right? You have to, even with streaming, I have to choose, unless you have a playlist. But streaming is much easier. And that's, I think, for most music lovers / audiophiles, that's what they find. There isn't a single person who would say, like, oh, my streamer, I've spent, X number of dollars. It's really, 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 really good. It's better than my vinyl rig.
Yeah.
What they'll say is that the streamer they have is really good. They don't have a vinyl rig. So anybody who has even half-decent turntable will say that vinyl's better.
Well, I've heard some incredibly good streamers. What is that thing called? My mind just went blank. It'll come to me when I remember Tyco. The Tyco Extreme, I think it's called, that a client of mine has. It's unbelievably good. And of course, the DAC has to match with it. But for the most part, in our store, we use streaming, one, because you have access to so many different songs right away. So if a client comes in and says, do you have this? You can easily pull it up and play it. And whereas with vinyl, first of all, you got to find a record, and then you got to clean it and so on. And I'm by nature very, very lazy. And not only that, as I mentioned many times in videos, once I start playing a song and the music starts, my mind instantly free associates to another song that's sort of similar, and I want to play that song next. And it drives me crazy. So that's why, in general, I use streaming because it's much easier. So that's our answer. Next question. Cam Baskey, I'd love to hear your opinions on whether you think the biggest technological and sonic improvements have been in amplification or speakers in the last 10 years.
I think it's the biggest improvement is actually in manufacturing tolerances. Automated processes have made all the critical components much more, so there's less variation. The sample variation is minimal. Anything from tubes to, processors. I guess processors especially, but capacitors, resistors, circuit boards, even transformers, they're all made better, and there's much less variation between the different production batches, and that's improved everything across the board. So if you can apply all those things and tap into that level of manufacturing, you're going to get a better product. So I've noticed everything improving to that level. So in other words, when you bring something out of a box, and then you wait a year, you get the next one out of the box, they sound the same. So that never used to happen. There used to be more variation, sample to sample. Sometimes you got a good one, sometimes you didn't. And now it's like basically everyone is going to be good.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on this one. I mean, years ago, if you looked at the speaker world, we're talking decades ago, there was a tremendous amount of not just innovation, but revolution. So, for example, electrostatic speakers. Electrostatic technology is not new. Came out in the 30s or 40s, 1930s or 40s as a technology. But it started becoming a real product that became sort of mass market is the wrong word, but became volume production when Quad came out with the ESL 57 and then the 63s and then Martin Logan's and Accustat and so on. And that was a technology that nobody had ever seen before, really. I mean, you had cone speakers, you never saw electrostatics. Magnepan with their planar magnetic speakers in the early 70s, never really saw that before. And suddenly you have this thing that looks like a wall divider or a room divider and produces sound. I don't think we have that kind of a revolution today in terms of technology. We have a refinement, if you will, of existing technologies. Yeah, so I don't have a clear answer. Okay, Wyretorn. I don't see you carry or review high-end Canadian products such as Moon, Bryston, EMLM Labs, Anthem. Any reason for not selling local products? Thanks.
Sure, we sell local products. We have NAD and Blue Sound. They're Lynbrook.
Well, the simple answer is that sometimes it's territorial. In other words, there are existing dealers that carry these wonderful products. Other times it's just timing. Many years ago, we were looking at Bryston, and then we happened to move shortly afterwards, and then we moved to a new location where there was an existing Bryston dealer, so that didn't work.
Yeah, there are
out.
like about 5,000 Bryston dealers out there, and I believe that there's probably like 3 within a block of us. No, I exaggerate.
So it's sometimes that, and sometimes it's not part of my particular taste. Notwithstanding the fact that it could be incredibly good, it's just not my taste.
We carry Taurus.
Yeah. I used to carry Anthem. A wonderful product, certainly for the money. Okay, Prio Ganguly. I would love to know Adrian's and Vilip's personal system at home and their favorite components over the years, even the brands the store doesn't carry currently.
Didn't we cover this already?
Might have. Well, I can tell you very quickly, I don't have a system at home because the current house is very small. Everything that I've ever wanted in the most recent past, I have in the store. So the Clear Audio Statement, turntable, the Wilson XVXs, D'Agostino's and Macintoshes are incredible products. So I'm very happy with what we've got in the store, and in some cases, the products I've just mentioned, I paid out of my own money. So the Statement turntable, the Wilson XVXs, those are physically mine. Vilip, do you want to mention anything that you particularly own that we haven't covered?
I own a lot of stuff still. I own way
stuff.
too much stuff.
Mention 2 or 3 so we can move on. Yeah.
Like I have a John Nante modified Lenco L78. That's really cool. I mean, it's not the most expensive version. It's just basically, though he calls it the classic. I've had that for some time. So some things I keep, some things I don't keep. I have a weird tone arm that goes with that turntable. Currently, I'm really, into Shindo, which we're not carrying.
Sucks.
But I've had lots of vintage stuff. I've had lots of tube stuff. It's just too much to go through it, and I change it. I do change it. It changes out. Right now, the other thing I'm really championing in my own personal life is Genelec. I like Genelec because a friend of mine played for me. He has a pair of Focal SM9s that he uses in a big giant loft, and it's a powered speaker with adjustments, and so it's audiophile, but not in a consumer version, but a pro audio version. But and it's like, so it's an ever evolving, changing thing, and I don't want to be pigeonholed. But I will use mostly vintage speakers or whatever I think sounds decent, and then different. Different is really important. You can't get one component to do everything, even though we champion all-in-one integrated amps. But having 3 of them so that you can change it out, that's what I do. Okay. I have Magnepans. I bought a pair of Magnepans. So my list the video would be about 5 hours long.
Okay, let's move on. Slow Fade. What's a good solid-state preamp under 2,000 Canadian with tube-like qualities to a rather dry solid-state amp? This is tough.
No, there's nothing. Sorry.
This is tough.
So here I have a friend. His name is Grant, and he currently owns a Macintosh C49. And it's been in once or twice for some issue, which we've never been able to find, but for granted was a problem. So we've lent him a couple different things, preamps in that price range that we carry, which is the Parasound P6, which I quite like because it's really versatile. And then we just lent him the PS Audio Stellar Gain Cell DAC, which is a preamp with a DAC built into it. He didn't like either one of those, and those are in the $2,000 range or slightly more than $2,000, and that would be, you know, the kind of things that we have access to. I don't know of a solid state preamp of any price that actually matches what, you know, this
Yeah,
person
I think in
is
this
asking.
case, I would recommend trying to find something pre-owned. If there's a particular reason why you're staying away from tubes, then obviously that makes it more difficult. But
Right,
if you're
if you
not,
want tube sound,
Yeah.
get tubes.
I was going to say, if you're not averse to trying tubes, if you can find them, some of the
So young Angus there glammed onto, and rightly so, Conrad Johnson tube preamp that came through the store. It's quite good. It's luscious and it's airy, and the price was amazing. It was under $1,000. And if you're lucky, you can find those things in good shape, and they'll last you a lifetime. A friend of mine, Nigel. There's this Audible Illusions Modulus 2 that came in through the store, and Jay was working here at the time. I said, Jay, you should buy that because it was under $1,000. It was like $800 or $600 or something like that. Jay bought it. He switched the tubes and he said, this is really great sounding. So what does he do immediately? He says, I'm going to sell it. So I sold it to Nigel for Jay. Nigel bought it. He still has it. He changed the tubes again, did some tube rolling. And then Jay, after a couple of months, when he first sold it, he comes to me, can I get that back? I said, I'll ask Nigel and see what he says. And Nigel says, no way. So Nigel still has it, and Jay's still going like, I wish I had that, that Audible Illusions back. It's because it really performs very well. It's tubey sounding, but that's what it is.
Definitely, those are some of the brands that I would mention to look for if you're not averse to buying tubes. MFA, even some of the early audio research, the SP6. and so on.
SP6C is fabulous. If you can get an SP8. That's really, really good too. And they're a little bit pricier, but SP6, I've seen them for about $1,500-$1,600 Canadian. The price has probably gone up a bit by now.
And they're worth the money because if you decide 2-3 years from now you don't want them anymore, you can get your money back or more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. SMIC66. Have you ever stocked Totem products or listened to them at shows, and what is your opinion? Did we already answer this? For some reason, I keep thinking, okay.
We've talked about Totem, but wasn't there supposed to be some discussions going?
Well, I haven't started the conversation, so
It would be Canadian products, so.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of Totems either on consignment or traded in, and in general, when things come in, I don't get a chance to really spend any significant amount of time listening to them. So most of my Totem experience has been with shows. And at shows, they throw some of the best demos. Totem, one thing about Totem, they do a great demo at shows.
You have a fairly big room. You put the small ones, like the Signature one or something like that, right, on a pair of really good stands. You put them out in the middle of the room, like, with all the space around it, and it throws this amazing sound stage, and it images really, really well. And, you put big-ass amplifiers on it, and it works beautifully.
Yeah, Totem has always done a really good job at shows. But I can't honestly tell you what I think about them because I've not had a lot of time with them in the store.
My problem with Totem is that my memory of what I listened to back in the day, which was the Model 1 Signature with the oil caps, and the Manny 2s. Those are the two that are like the most prominent used ones that come up when they do come up, and the ones that I can wholeheartedly recommend because I really actually like those two speakers. The Taboos are okay too, but I don't really know them intimately since then. So unless we get some speakers in here on, for evaluation purposes. Did you hear that guy, you guys in Montreal? Like, Vince?
Well, I'll reach out to them. Okay, next question. Audio acoustic engineering. Do you miss Jay? Dead silence for a moment. You'll notice that.
No.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
I put down here no. Hell no. No.
Of course I miss Jay.
Jay's a great guy.
He's my friend.
We love him. We unfortunately don't get to see him very much.
He's so busy.
Yeah, we're all busy. But we do miss him, and he's always welcome to drop by, and I give him a
He
hug
had
when I
Christmas
see him.
dinner with us.
Yeah, so no animosity except he's an asshole. All right, next one. Next, Platinum Framing asks, horror stories of clients damaging loaner equipment. Oh, I've got a good one. Ooh, I got a good one. So many years ago, it wasn't common to loan products back then, especially in our case, because we were a small little store, had no money. To loan things out was difficult. Anyway, I decided we're going to have this policy where we'll loan things out if a client wants to try it. So I loaned out this, this tube amplifier. I won't mention the name. Loaned out this tube amplifier. The gentleman took it back, well-known tube amplifier. 3-4 days later, brought it back, and he says, "Oh, thank you very much. I'll let you know." Fine. And many days later, had no reason to use it. Many days later, I went to play it for another client, and it literally started smoke and all this kind of stuff. And I jumped to it, pulled it out of the wall, and so on. Had my tech take a look at it. He flipped it over, opened the bottom, and he says, "Come look at this." I took a look. He says, "This thing's been butchered." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Somebody has taken out the original parts, put in things that are completely different, wrong values, did a horrible soldering job. In some cases, wasn't even soldered." He says, "This thing is a fire hazard." I was shocked. I'm thinking, no, it can't be. How could a manufacturer do this? And my next thought was, thank God the guy who borrowed it didn't happen to him. And so I told my technician, he says, "No, you idiot. That guy who borrowed it did this." I said, "Why would he do that?" He says, "This thing comes with really high quality parts. What do you think?" And I thought, "You're kidding me. You mean the guy borrowed it, cut out the parts, and put in crap?" He says, "Yes." And that is the worst case I've ever seen as a loaner. Anyway. Yeah, I couldn't even chase him for this because what proof do I have, right? All I know
But
is
what
that
could he use those parts in? That they're very specific values.
turned out the guy's a DIY guy, loves to do it yourself, and we're talking about, at the time, very expensive boutique parts. Anyway, so that was a bad experience. Okay, next question. Kanga Empire. Oh, we know Kanga Empire.
Yes, Joseph.
Ideal budget, no option, 2-channel music system.
Doesn't exist.
Well, I've got mine.
Sort of.
Yeah, I'm very
You don't
happy
have
with it.
relentless amplifiers.
Oh, I'm not going there. Yeah, I'm not going there. I got no money.
You don't have the relentless preamp.
I got no money. Giacono 1. Who is the most knowledgeable audio specialist at Audio Excellence?
Well, that'd be Alex.
I would say Vilip, because he's got the most time and experience with all this stuff. The only thing about Vilip is that you have to like what he likes. Your taste has to be somewhat similar to his, and then it'll make sense to you.
Because I like horns.
That's right. Although I must say he's gotten a lot better at not shutting you down if you don't happen to like what he likes.
I still will.
Yeah, I'm more diplomatic because I understand that not everybody likes what I like, but I certainly...
You like the bass.
But then again, look, I would be defensive too if I like Bananarama. So, but yeah, that would be my answer. I would say Vilip is the most knowledgeable audio specialist. As a matter of fact, in general, in the store's history, I would say Vilip has been, or still is, the most knowledgeable audiophile who I've ever had the pleasure of working
What about
with.
Mike Tang?
Well, Mike is very knowledgeable in specific things. Like, for example, he's great with turntables. He's like Mr. MacGyver. If you ever needed anything done and you don't have the right thing or part and so on, he'll figure out a way to make it work. But as an audiophile per se, I would say you have more experience than he does.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, we better wrap it up. Thank you for watching this. If you've made it all the way through, thank you. As usual, like the video if you liked it. Share it, subscribe, turn on notification, join our social media if you feel inclined to do so. And
Come visit the store if you're
yes.
in the GTA.
Yes. Speaking of that, auditions by appointment only, so that it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we set it up properly and use equipment that's similar to yours and so on. Plus also it allows us to properly book the rooms because we don't want to overbook. And anyway, and of course, thank you for watching, because the money we make, we match and we donate to the Salvation Army, and we appreciate that, your contribution that way. Adrian from Audio Canada, Vilip, Angus, and Alex. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.